All right, so have you ever been just going about your day, making decisions like what to eat or whether to hit the gym, and then it suddenly hits you like, wait a second, did I actually choose that? Or was it already kind of set in motion?
Hmm.
That's what we're diving deep into today, this whole idea of fate versus free will. We're going to tackle the big question. Is our future like a fixed path, or are we truly calling the shots?
Yeah, exactly. And it gets pretty mind-bending. I mean, we've got some wild ideas to explore, from ancient philosophy to modern physics, even a bit of brain science thrown in for good measure.
That's right. We're aiming to give you a clear view of these two opposing ideas so you can walk away with a fresh perspective on how much control you actually have over your own life. No need to get bogged down in like super complicated theories.
We want to keep it grounded and relatable.
Exactly. Okay, so let's kick things off with this wild idea that our future might actually be predetermined. It's a tough one to really grasp, like everything what you'll be doing next week, who you'll meet 5 years from now, it's all already decided. Kind of a head-spinning concept, right?
It really is. And it raises so many questions, like where does this idea even come from?
Hmm.
Well, our notes mention some pretty interesting stuff from the world of physics, particularly this concept of determinism.
And yeah, determinism, that's basically the idea that everything that happens is an inevitable result of what happened before it.
Yeah, exactly. It's all a chain reaction governed by unbreakable natural laws. So every event, even down to the thoughts we're having right now, could be seen as a direct consequence of the Big Bang, that initial starting point of the universe.
Whoa. Okay, so if we follow that line of thinking, then every decision we make, every turn we take, it's not really our choice after all. It's just like a domino effect stretching back billions of years.
In a way, yeah. That's the essence of a purely deterministic view of the universe.
Mm-hmm.
It challenges our intuitive sense of agency, that feeling we have that we're the ones in control.
I mean, it makes you wonder, right? If everything is already preordained, is life just like watching a movie for the second time? Like, you know the ending, but you still get caught up in the story.
Yeah, I like that analogy. It captures the feeling of experiencing life unfold, even if every twist and turn was, in a sense, already written in the script.
Right, like that moment of suspense when the hero is hanging off a cliff. You know they're going to make it because you've seen the movie before, but you still feel that tension. Maybe our lives are a bit like that.
It's a pretty trippy thought, for sure. And it's not a new one either. Even before the advent of modern physics, ancient civilizations grappled with this idea of destiny.
Oh yeah, totally. Like the ancient Greeks with their myths about the fates, those three goddesses who controlled the threads of human life.
Exactly. They believed that even the gods themselves couldn't escape the decrees of fate. It's a concept that's woven through mythology and storytelling across many different cultures.
Okay, so we've got this pretty compelling case for a predetermined future, at least from a theoretical standpoint. But let's flip the script for a bit and look at the other side of the coin. Free will.
Right, that intuitive feeling that we are the captains of our own ships,
Yeah.
steering our lives in the direction we choose.
Yeah. I mean, just think about it. Every day we're bombarded with choices, big and small, like what to have for breakfast, whether to respond to that text, or, which career path to pursue.
Right, our notes even mention these simple everyday examples, like deciding to skip dessert or call a friend. These are decisions that feel very real and impactful in the moment.
Totally. And it's these seemingly insignificant choices that actually end up shaping our lives. They determine the relationships we build, the experiences we have, the person we ultimately become.
Precisely. It's like each choice is a brushstroke, and together they create the masterpiece of your life. And that's a powerful argument for free will.
And here's the thing. The idea of free will isn't just some feel-good philosophy. It has some pretty major implications, especially when we start thinking about ethics and morality.
Oh, absolutely. Our notes delve into this question of what happens to our concept of right and wrong if we take free will out of the equation.
Right, like if someone commits a crime, but they were predetermined to do it, can we really hold them responsible?
It throws a wrench into our whole justice system, doesn't it? And what about things like personal responsibility or setting goals and striving for something better? If our future is already written, why bother?
Right, it's almost like it undermines the whole point of human effort and ambition. And, it challenges those core values that we build our societies on.
Yeah, it raises some profound questions about the meaning of life, the purpose of our actions, and our very understanding of what it means to be human.
So we're left with this with this tension between two seemingly opposite forces. Fate, pulling us along a predetermined path, and free will, empowering us to choose our own adventure. How do we reconcile these two ideas? Can they even coexist?
It's a puzzle that philosophers and scientists have been grappling with for centuries, and there's no easy answer. But our notes offer a couple of intriguing possibilities.
Oh, okay, good, because I'm feeling a little lost here. Like, how can we possibly have free will if everything's already decided?
Well, one idea is that maybe the future isn't a fixed, detailed script, but more like a rough sketch.
Okay, so like the broad strokes are laid out, but we have the freedom to fill in the details.
Yeah, something like that. Imagine having a map with the start and end points marked, but you get to choose the route you take, the stops you make along the way.
I like that. So maybe some major life events are kind of preordained, but how we experience them, the choices we make in between those milestones, those are still up to us.
Exactly. It's like the universe gives us a framework, but within that framework, we have the power to create our own unique story.
That makes sense. And I think it kind of lines up with our everyday experience, right? Like we all have those moments where we feel like we're at a crossroads and the decision we make will have a real impact on our lives.
Right. And another interesting perspective is this idea that maybe free will operates within certain limits, like rules of the game.
Okay, like we can make choices, but those choices have to be within the confines of, say, the laws of physics or the circumstances we're born into.
Exactly. You have freedom to move your pieces on the chessboard, but you can't just suddenly decide to fly the queen across the room.
Right. So there are boundaries, but within those boundaries, we still have a genuine ability to choose. That's kind of reassuring, actually.
It is. It offers a way to balance those seemingly conflicting ideas of fate and free will. It suggests that we're not just puppets on a string, but we're not completely unrestrained either.
Okay, so that helps clear up some of the big picture stuff. But what about this nagging question that I bet a lot of our listeners have right now? Like how can the future be decided if I feel like I'm constantly making choices?
It's a perfectly valid question. And it highlights how our subjective experience of life clashes with these theories about determinism.
Yeah, like it feels so real when we're weighing options, debating pros and cons, and finally landing on a decision.
It does. And that feeling of agency is hard to ignore. But our notes offer a pretty thought-provoking analogy to help us make sense of this.
Oh, okay. I'm all ears.
Think about a character in a movie. They experience emotions, make decisions, face consequences. To them, it all feels real and impactful. But from the perspective of the screenwriter, their entire story is already laid out.
Oh, wow. So are you saying that we're all just characters in a cosmic movie following a pre-written script?
Well, some theories suggest that our brains might be wired to give us this incredibly convincing sense of agency, even if the underlying reality is more complex.
That's kind of freaky, but also kind of fascinating. Like, maybe our feeling of free will is just a really good illusion.
It's a mind-bending concept for sure. But, even if that were true, it wouldn't necessarily diminish the significance of our choices.
That's true. I mean, our choices still shape our experiences and who we become, even if there's a grand plan unfolding behind the scenes.
Exactly. And the power of believing in free will is hard to deny. Our notes emphasize that it's this belief that motivates us to set goals, strive for improvement, and take responsibility for our lives.
Right. If we truly believe we have the power to make a difference, we're more likely to act on that belief. And that can have a huge impact on the world around us.
Absolutely. And, there's another layer to this whole debate. What does science have to say about free will?
Oh, yeah, that's right. There's been some pretty interesting research using brain scans to try and understand how decisions are made.
Exactly. Some studies have found that neural activity associated with a decision can be detected even before a person consciously reports making that decision.
So, like, their brain is making the choice before they even realize it?
That's one interpretation, yeah. And some people see this as evidence against free will. Like our brains are calling the shots, and our conscious awareness is just along for the ride.
Okay, but doesn't that kind of ignore the whole subjective experience of making a choice? Like that feeling of deliberation and intentionality.
Right. And that's why it's crucial to point out that these brain scan studies don't definitively prove that free will doesn't exist. They show correlations and patterns, but the exact relationship between brain activity and conscious choice is still a big mystery.
So the jury's still out on that one.
Exactly. It's a really complex issue, and there's still a lot we don't understand about how our brains work.
Okay, so let's Let's shift gears a bit and talk about the practical implications of all this. I mean, does it really matter whether someone believes in fate or free will? Does it actually change how they live their life?
Well, our notes suggest that it definitely can. If you believe your future is predetermined, you might be more likely to accept things as they are and not really strive for change.
Yeah, I can see that. Like, what's the point of trying to fight against fate, right?
Right. But if you believe in free will, you might be more motivated to take action, set goals, and work towards creating the future you want.
It's like that belief gives you a sense of ownership over your life, and that can be incredibly empowering.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So even if we never definitively answer the question of whether fate or free will is truly in control, the way we choose to believe can have a profound impact on our lives.
So it's not just a philosophical debate. It's something that can actually influence our actions and how we experience the world.
Exactly. And it brings us to this important question. How do we, as individuals, navigate this whole complex issue of fate versus free will? I mean, it can be pretty overwhelming, right?
Yeah, it is. Like, on the one hand, it's tempting to just throw your hands up and say, well, whatever happens, happens. But on the other hand, you don't want to just sit back and let life pass you by.
Right. And our notes offer a really practical piece of advice for finding that balance.
Oh, okay. What's that?
It suggests living your life as if your choices truly matter. Because from your own perspective, they absolutely do.
So, like, act as if you have free will, even if you're not entirely sure.
Exactly. Focus on making conscious decisions, pursuing your goals, and taking responsibility for your actions. But at the same time, also acknowledge that there are some things beyond your control.
Okay, so like you can steer the ship, but you can't control the weather.
That's a great analogy. It's about finding that sweet spot between agency and acceptance, recognizing your own power to make choices, but also accepting the inherent uncertainty of life.
That makes a lot of sense. It's a way to live a meaningful and engaged life without getting too hung up on whether every detail of your future is already set in stone.
Right. It's about focusing on what you can control, embracing the journey, and making the most of the choices you have in each moment.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into fate versus free will, I think it's safe to say that we've explored some pretty mind-bending ideas. We've looked at the arguments for determinism, the compelling case for free will, and even some possibilities for how those two seemingly opposite concepts might actually coexist.
And we've seen that this debate isn't just an abstract philosophical exercise. It has real-world implications, influencing our motivation, our sense of responsibility, and our overall outlook on life.
Exactly. And even if we never come to a definitive answer about whether our future is truly fixed or open to our choices, simply engaging with these ideas can help us live more consciously and intentionally.
Absolutely. And that brings us to one final thought to leave you with.
Okay, what's that?
If our experience of choice, that feeling of consciously shaping our lives, is so fundamental to what it means to be human, what does that tell us about the nature of reality itself? Regardless of whether the future is ultimately fixed or fluid, our ability to make choices, to grapple with these big questions, that's what makes us human. And that's something worth pondering as you navigate your own choices in the days and weeks ahead.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time.